Making Miles Prowler's gauntlets out of EVA foam from Givewave Studios. Just how difficult is it to make? Here's how I did it.
What is blazing dragon ninjas? Got some brand new heat for y'all today. And as you know, I'm going to be tackling Givewave Studios Miles Prowler's gauntlet. I do this to gauge to see how difficult it will be to actually attempt, and I'll also try and add my own few improvements or pointers to make it easier. Alright, so starting off, I cut off all the template pieces and now I transfer that onto EVA foam. You want to make sure all your X-Acto knives are super duper sharp. Cut. We show the other undersides to show that they're all cut. Right now, very simple. It's a 1 out of 10 in difficulty. Right now everything's looking real good. That's until I get to gluing or whatever. We'll see how it goes. Something of note when you're making your mountain and valley cuts on these pieces is that you don't want to cut too deep and accidentally poke it through to the other side, because once it bends it'll stretch out and you'll see a hole on the other side. That's pretty good. That came out really good. And now I'll just glue the rest of the finger pieces together. So for the holes, I'm using a welding iron. I sharpened it myself, and then I'll just perfectly puncture, actually perfect hole basically. So yeah, it's really simple. Alright, now that completes all the claws. I'm going to attach these pieces on now to the main bulk of the gauntlet. So starting here, I'm actually going to make the groove for the Fairy Light battery pack. This is where the Fairy Light battery pack will rest on the back of the gauntlet. And to cut up the groove, I'm simply just going to use my X-Acto knife, and I only need to cut out about half of the thickness of the EVA foam. This should be able to slide in. Ooh, it fits perfectly too. Now for the arm brace, I now scored out details onto the part where I'm going to put extra details on top of. Now for this piece, the details didn't show up on my paper when I printed it out, and if you have that same problem too, you'll want to look at the actual file, and then from there you'll guess where the details would be. I know it's not for the right side, but it went on the right. Oh my gosh, that's tough though. Should help you line it up, as he said. And the piece is complete. Piece complete. Difficulty so far, still like about a 2 out of 10. This is very, very simple, especially if you have a knack for a little bit of that art ability and art skill. This should not be tough for you. I mean, if you're a bit crooked like me, you might have some crooked edges and like some inconsistencies, for example.
Nah, that ain't it, y'all.
But aside from that though, everything else is looking pretty good. And yeah, it's a 3 out of 10, or maybe no, not even 2 or 1 out of 10 in difficulty. It's very, very simple right now. I feel like a lot of people could get through these parts right now. There's no difficult parts. It's fairly simple. Now this is the outer hand cover, and this only asks of 3 valley cuts, and that's pretty simple. This will be the side that shows, and as you can see, the lines of where the valley cuts are, but do be careful and not cut too deep or you'll get these nicks inside. Now here are the pieces for the magnets that will help your gauntlet close together. Now the first time I got the template for the gauntlet, I didn't get it, but it's okay because the next time I requested for it, he provided it, so it's not a problem at all. Now at this point, I pretty much had all the pieces prepared. Some of the parts that require magnets, I added 2 for extra strength, and now I just have to assemble. Okay, I won't lie, if you walk through conventions a lot, and you're gonna deal with a lot of people that can't walk properly, and you have this magnet thing on the gauntlets, it's actually gonna be a pretty big detriment because it's gonna knock off and fall off a lot, like very, very often. So you can honestly just glue these pieces together. That's what I did, and it's honestly been fine that way. I'm now gonna attach the pieces that closes the gauntlet together. And here's the piece completed. This is an option you can try if you can't 3D print the tubes for the gauntlet.
you can get some glow in the dark pink and some neon pink paint, and you can just mix it in with some moldable plastic. Also from Givewave's file, you can get the piece that he uses for the tubes, like the dimensions, and I put it on an aluminum sheet metal, which I'm gonna fold into that U shape and then melt the moldable plastic over it. Alright, so here's the process. I first start with the aluminum sheet metal piece, and I put that onto the moldable plastic. When handling the moldable plastic, you first want to put it in a container and then put boiling hot water on top of it. You'll see it melt, and then you just pick it up with a tool, but not your hands directly, and you want it to cool down from that point. Now once it's cooled down, you can add the pink paint into it and then just let it set. Now with the set piece of moldable plastic, I can now cut out the shape that I desire. Now I won't lie, cutting the moldable plastic is very satisfying. I will also add that you do want your moldable plastic piece to be as thin as possible. You don't want the piece to be too thick. Another key thing to add is that when you add the paints to the moldable plastic, it gets very sticky when melted, but without the paint it's not sticky. So that's just one key thing to note, and will also be very bothersome when you do it. I also originally bent these into the U shape, but I figured out that it's not consistent and not the best method to use. So what I later did is just simply bend the aluminum sheet metal into the U shape and then melt these over it on top with like a heat gun. And here's my completed row of tubes. Now for the bigger tubes, I followed exactly what Givewave said. You just have to heat treat it and then roll it, and then heat treat it again and roll it on the other side, and that will keep it in the circular shape. After heat treating it, you can glue it together just like this. Quick note, I did change the pink tubes and I added some resin on it with the same coloring, so it matches. It just gives it more of a shine and made it look a bit better. But now I'm just adding details onto the pink tubes, and I simply got some EVA foam with about a height of 2.5 centimeters. If you also bought that metal decal that Givewave put in his links, then definitely keep aside the exact same dimensions of the metal decal. And you always have the option to just paint these a silver color. Once I cut out one rectangle, I decided to just duplicate the same one, but I figured out that this isn't the perfect 3D printed file with the perfect dimensions, and this is like handmade. Each side is not going to be perfectly fit to the one I just cut. So this doesn't really work if you do this moldable plastic technique. Alright, now I'm going to use my rotary tool to hollow out the inside a bit more. Right now I'm going to apply the metallic vinyl onto the outer hand cover lip. Once completed, it should look like this with a little bit of space for gluing. So now we're at the part where I'm applying the claws onto the main hand part of the glove. I changed the hand part of the glove from EVA foam to leather because it definitely maxes out the durability since you'll be wearing it often. And previously when I was dealing with the EVA foam hand base, it ripped a lot and I had to change it 24/7 and enhance it, which just became a nuisance after.
Let's go. All right, next step.
Alright, so this is the 1/2 inch piece with no specific dimensions that I'm gonna just apply on. You're gonna use a 5mm EVA foam and you're simply gonna cover the tops of the tubes. This is optional, but I've done it for aesthetic. You're simply gonna grab around 2 centimeters in width of carbon fiber vinyl, and you're gonna place it in the middle seam at the bottom of the gauntlet. And now I'm gonna cut 6 circles with a diameter of 1 centimeter. And now I'm gonna score the star-shaped screwdriver holes onto the circles. And for some extra detail, I'm just gonna shape up each screw to be a perfect circle. And I'll go in with the heat gun to expand the scores and seal it. Since the scores weren't to my liking, I went in with the welding iron to help shape up the star head design. And once each of the screw heads are complete, it can now be glued onto place. And it's gonna go on those tiny circle indicators that I scored before that you should have also. Now to another part for detail, I'm simply going to get a 5mm EVA foam, and with it I'll solder down just the outer perimeter. I'll then add the star head screwdriver detail, and the total circle's diameter is about 1.5 centimeters. And for even more optional details, you can add these little black circles. And now I want to show you the difference between the handmade tubes and the 3D printed tubes, and also the difference between the pink and the white light. Here's the white light, and on the left is the pink light. And here's what I believe to be the clear winner is the pink light. And here's how it looks. Alright, and for my final thoughts, the difficulty of this craft is about a 2 out of 10. Maybe you can bump it up to a 3 out of 10 if you don't have any art skills at all, but for the most part, if you follow the template one of one, add a few tweaks to it, then you should be good. The only thing I would actually consider difficult, funnily enough, were the small details. Everything else was relatively simple. You just put the pieces together. Obviously keep a sharp X-Acto knife with you. That helps the experience a lot. Also, if you do the handmade tubes, maybe you can bump it out to a 4 out of 10 in difficulty. But be sure to comment down below your experience if you do this, and burn the like button and subscribe. And later, Dragon Ninjas.